we're back. In this video of the developmental zone, we're actually going to click into one of the levels, the centered awareness response, and we're going to look specifically at 3 exercises that come out of the practice and training of Aikido. It's really a way to, without kind of establishing yourself in centered awareness, there really is not a possibility to do Aikido in terms of the principles. So we're going to look at 3 different practices. The first practice that we're going to look at is called Mind the Wave. Now, if you've ever been to London, and if you've ever ridden the underground in London, you might have noticed, you've probably noticed, that there's quite a big gap between the train and the platform when you're stepping off the train. And as you step off, there's a sign all over the platform that says, "Mind the gap." And this term is something that everybody in England knows about, and many people around the world actually know about it as well. But it's also a term that's been borrowed from mindfulness practitioners because it's a beautiful mantra, a beautiful reminder to tell us to mind the gaps in mindfulness that come up. So the gaps in our awareness that come up throughout the day, if we mind those, we'll start to create more of a connected, moment-by-moment connected stream of mindfulness. So it's the same thing with Mind the Wave. The wave in centered awareness response specifically speaks about the survival instinct that rises up from our belly in a moment of fear. And it's a really, really small little sensation here. It's a point that arises just below the navel when there's something that's perceived as fear. It could be a loud sound, it could be something we see, something we think, or an actual danger that comes up. It could even be excitement. There's a little wave, whoop, that comes up. And when the wave comes up, everything in the system tends to lift up. Often the shoulders lift up and everything raises up to the mind. So for centered awareness response, to be able to respond in the center with awareness, we have to create a change in the wave that rises up in the system. Minding the wave is a practice that helps us create a container of the wave as it arises. So let's look at 4 points here in minding the wave. The first point is it helps us to know your reactions. The more you practice minding the wave throughout the day, and it will come up hundreds of times throughout the day, if you really start to pay attention, you'll begin to know your reactions, you'll begin to know the triggers that come up in these situations. The second is that it helps you shift back to center. The moment you come up, you automatically, with awareness, begin to shift back into center. So minding the wave can actually kind of create this reset button. The third point is that it creates a container. What kind of container? A container of awareness. As we kind of create this container of awareness and we become more aware of the wave, as it comes up in the container and it settles back down into the container. When we're not minding the wave, the container of awareness is quite small and it comes up and then we're just gone with it. We're off to the races. But if we have this container of awareness, we can watch the reaction arise, watch the reaction fall, and then we can choose how we want to respond in that situation. And the fourth point of minding the wave, the practice of minding the waves, helps to rewire the self. The nervous system, the neurons in the brain all have conditioned ways, conditioned patterns of reacting to certain stimuli. When we practice minding the wave, it actually helps to rewire those things in more healthy, responsible, and responsive ways. So we're going to take a look at these, at the practice of minding the wave, and then we'll come back. Great, so now we're going to do a little bit of a practice, one simple practice for minding the wave. There are many types of practices you can do, and that's because basically the wave that comes up is an instinctual fear that rises up in the system. And of course there's many types of fear in the body, many types of fear in the mind, but if you think of biologically, if you take a baby, kind of an early born, not an infant, but just a real baby, they don't have too many fears about dangerous things because they don't have the idea, the concepts that things can be dangerous. But there are 2 basic things that are hardwired in the system that actually create fear in a baby. One would be a loud noise. They actually get scared from that. And the second is the fear of falling. If they fall down, they actually begin to fear that moment. Because, which just goes to point out that the fear of falling is something that is deeply, deeply hardwired into our system, even at the age of a baby. So in Aikido, one of the first practices that we do to help kind of establish ourselves in centered awareness response is we practice a lot of falling. That's the first practice that anybody gets when they go into the dojo. So we're not going to do a falling practice here, but we're going to do a similar exercise that will trigger that fear and trigger the wave for the purpose of creating the practice to mind the wave. And to do this, I'm going to ask my friends Roy and Anna and Bettina to come in and help out. And in this exercise, they're going to surround me. There's 3 now. We would actually do this with 4, but we're keeping this open for the camera. First, I just kind of establish my feet in the center. I put them together, not in a good base, excuse me. And from there, I want to kind of first settle down into my center and have a good posture. Then I'm going to, the only thing I'm going to do that's active is holding my posture a little bit, so I'm not going to fall apart. Then I just kind of relax, and they're going to, let's say Anna begins. She's going to begin by tipping me over, and I fall towards Roy, and Roy catches me. And that moment that I'm falling, that's the trigger point where the fear can come up. So for example, if he tips me back, if I'm not super conscious, the fear can actually take me up. I'll step or I'll grab. I'll try to find some security. That's kind of the normal thing that happens in fear. But when we're training centered awareness, we're actually going to try to override that instinct with a container of awareness. And they're going to randomly tip me everywhere except forward, because there's nobody standing here. And my job is just to be patient, relax, and observe the wave as it comes up, give it a container, and breathe. So whenever you're ready, you can begin. And my job is simply to stay in the center and observe what's arising in this area. Keep my breathing down. And sometimes they'll let me fall a lot. Sometimes it'll be a little bit. It doesn't matter. The whole point is that I want to relax the system and receive the input without getting triggered and minding the wave. And if the wave comes up, see if you can breathe and give it a little bit of space. If you start to react, or something like that, sorry, Roy. If you start to react, just be aware that that's coming up, and awareness is really the thing that we use to overcome the lower instinct. Okay, the lower instinct is a deep biological instinct. It's kind of automatic reaction. And I'm taking my higher intelligence of awareness, I'm minding the wave, and I create more of a centered awareness response. Okay? That's exercise number 1. Great, thanks. Great, so that last practice of minding the wave is something that just as a demonstration, if you can get together with your friends and practice it, it's really a great practice. But minding the wave is something you can do at all times, all places, in all circumstances, because the wave can actually arise in any situation, in any conditions. And it's just another opportunity to practice minding the wave. And remember, the four points, that was just one practice. You can do many types of practices, but no matter what kinds of practices you're doing, these are some of the 4 points that are very helpful when you do the practice of minding the wave. You become familiar as you know more your own reactions. You begin to shift back into center. Every time it comes out, there's an automatic recentering. You begin to create a container of awareness around that wave so it arises and it just passes away, and you'll begin to rewire the self. The more you practice minding the wave, you begin to create positive patterns in the nervous system, positive patterns in the mind.